Dan, welcome to the Cold Movement Gym podcast. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Josh.
Awesome. So let's kick this off. You were on the History Channel show Alone season 3. You lasted 51 days and you lost over 50 pounds in the process. The show starts with 10 contestants that are dropped off in a remote location with no food or water, and the last man or woman standing wins. Dan is the founder and owner of Coalcracker Bushcraft, a company who offers educational seminars and survival products. Dan's YouTube channel, Coalcracker Bushcraft, has over 500,000 subscribers. In addition to Dan's survival skills, he is also a fitness enthusiast. So Dan, welcome to the show, dude.
Yes, thanks again for having me. We've been trying back and forth here finally because Dan's schedule never allows. Finally, we're making this happen. So I'm excited about it. So because fitness is I don't know, it might even be a little bit more than bushcraft, like as far as my favorite things in the world. So I was excited about it because everybody's always like survival, survival, survival with Dan. But now, I get to mesh these two worlds together. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, we were my son and I were down in Ringtown, Pennsylvania, there where your camp and headquarters is, and we met. Obviously, we spent 2 days together, but it was a busy 2 days. And after, when we were driving home, I was like, man, I would love to have Dan on the podcast. And you didn't know I was into fitness. We didn't really talk about the whole thing, but I knew you were doing something physical beyond the survival stuff because, you obviously take care of yourself. The Co-Movement Gym podcast is sponsored by Native Path Supplements, Lombardi Chiropractic, and A Dog's Day Out Doggy Daycare. Mention this podcast or use the promo code in the episode description for a nice discount on us. I want to first start off with, I do want to talk about the show Alone. A lot of people are very interested in it. A lot of our clients are into like camping, hunting, fishing. I live in upstate New York. So how excited were you? Like, did you get a random call to go on the show? How did that whole process work?
So there's a little bit of a story to it. So the short part of it is they ended up contacting me. Because they found me on YouTube. But the little bit longer story of it is I was at home, I was watching season 1 of Alone, and I thought, I want to do this. Because at the time, I was working at another survival school. I was always out in the woods. I thought, this is a perfect opportunity. I had my YouTube channel, which probably at that point had like 10 subscribers or something. So I was like, this is going to be awesome to get on this show. So I put a submission in online at the time in historychannel.com, and it came back, we already cast it for season 2. We'll keep your stuff on file. So I thought, I'm like, imagine the amount of people that put their name in on this thing. So that was it. I sort of forgot about it. I watched season 1 and jumping off on a little side tangent here. So I worked in the juvenile justice field, and the facility I worked at, it downsized, ultimately closed. I got laid off, which was like a blessing in disguise because I was burned out. I didn't want to do that job anymore. I didn't know what I really wanted to do. And it was my first week of not being employed. I was like, I'm going to collect unemployment, see what happens here, and pick a new career path. And I was actually at the school property that you were at with your son with me. And while we're there, I get a call from New York. So I thought, it's one of these like telemarketers. I hit ignore. A couple of minutes later, I get a call from LA. I hit ignore. Another call from New York. I pick up and I'm like real like sassy on the phone with them. And they're like, is this Dan Wowak? Like, we're calling, did you apply for a show? This is not even on my radar at this point. So I'm like, no. I'm like, who is this? And and they're like, well, this is a casting producer. I'm like, for what? And I'm like giving them the business. And here's somebody from Alone calling me about the show, and they wanted more information from me. So that's how it all started. And then there's somewhat of a process to get onto the show then, because they narrow it down from, 50, 60,000 people, I think, down to the 10 people who end up going. So I had to submit videos. I had to do online Skype interviews. I had to do phone interviews. I had to go to New York with, I think at that point they were down to like 30 or 40 people, and they do like a skill assessment. They do psychiatric evaluations, and then they narrow that down to the top 10 with 2 alternates. So
Mhm.
they call you and then you leave right away. So you don't have a long gap from when they actually say you can be on the show if you want to be on it till you leave is like a 2-week window.
Wow, that was actually my next question. So you only had really 2 weeks to prepare for this.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have to be prepared way ahead of time
Sure.
with the whole thing. And if anybody ever watched Alone, a lot of it comes down to how long can you starve? Because you don't
Yep.
get a lot of food in the situations they put you in. So you can try to bulk up, and we all know in the fitness world it takes a little bit of time to bulk up. I mean, people are like, I put 10 pounds on over the weekend. Well, no, it's not a real 10 pounds, right? You know, you got
Yeah.
water
Yeah.
weight and all that. So to really bulk up in a 2-week period for the show is not it's not going to happen. And then when they take you to location, in my case, I was in Patagonia in South America. We were on site there for about a week and a half to close to 2 weeks. So they just give you 3 normal meals a day. Like there's no
Mhm.
snacking. I'm not able to pick out an ice cream and pizza to bulk up. So even if I put a couple pounds on, I mean, naturally, I mean, you're just eating less calories and you're going to just somewhat get back to your normal state of being by the time you go out into the field. So yeah, there's not much preparation time ahead. You have to be ready to go pretty much on a
Yeah.
dime.
Yeah, yeah. Now this is something I've always been fascinated with. What 10 items did you choose? Like in my mind, I rehearse, sort of like what would I choose, what did you choose? I know you guys get basic hygiene items, that don't count towards the 10
Yep.
items. But as far as what did you choose to in your kit?
So I off the top of my head, I'll try to go through 10. Sometimes I get myself confused because it's been a little while. So I took tools, axe, a knife, and a bow saw. They were my main tools. I took a pot to boil water in and cook my food in, which I didn't get too much food. I only had 9 fish in 51 days. And then I took a hammock, which that would be the one item out of all of my items that I would probably rethink. And the reason for that was I didn't know exactly where in Patagonia I was going. So I was just like, I'm going to get a comfortable sleep and I'll be good. And so I did choose that. I had a fishing kit that I could take along with me. And then, man, 4 more items. What other 4 items did I have?
Fire starter?
Yeah, I had a fire starter. Can't let that out. So I left a fire starter in there. And
Yep.
then the other 3, I can't even
Paracord?
remember.
Was it paracord
I don't know
maybe?
if I had paracord or not because what they did for our season was the first season. There was like thresholds that if you were there 45 days, they'd give you another item. If you were
Oh.
there 60 days, they would add another thing. So you had to pick them items ahead of time. So
Mhm.
that was stuff, that I had coming up further on down the line.
Okay, sure. So like you get dropped off in a helicopter or boat and you're all alone, like you at least I would be prior to the show like formulating a strategy, like what are my main things I've got to get going on right now, cuz you've got to get food, shelter, like it's going to be getting colder. What was your strategy going into day 1?
So my strategy going into the whole show itself was to just fall back on the things that I normally taught because I said at this time I didn't have my own school, but I was working at a school in Ohio. So in survival, it's all about fire, water, shelter, and food. If you can get those things, you can live indefinitely, but you have to have enough of all that. So when I first got there, find a good shelter location, get myself in a shelter situation, and I'm protected. Get a fire going because at least that gives you some comfort, and then get some water in me. So that was like day 1, 2, and 3. That was like my main focus. I wasn't too worried about other stuff. And then I started fishing and trying to look for food and things like that moving forward. And then that's what my life became, was nothing more than trying to obtain food. And everything else outside of that I would do was just simply to just occupy my mind a little bit. But most of it was just around the whole food situation of trying to constantly secure more food, which was extremely difficult in my case.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second, but like what day did you start to get like really hungry, like mentally, where you're like, man, like I am fully fasted here, I'm getting low energy? When did that kick in? Because like I've done a 3-day water fast, so water and salt only for 3 days, and it was doable, I was fine, but I wasn't like building shelter and trying to find food and all of this. And so when did the hunger actually kick in?
3 days. Like
Three
after my
days.
third day, I didn't eat for the first 3 days. I didn't have any food for the first 3 days. And then, but it was weird because it never, I guess because my stress levels were so high, it didn't even really, at no point was I like in that time period, like, oh, my belly's growling. Oh, I'm like, I need a donut. Like that, it literally didn't even cross my mind. I was just doing what I had to do, getting all my stuff situated, scouting out the area, working on my shelter. I did throw my fishing lines in. I didn't like avoid that, but
Mhm.
that wasn't like, oh, I'm super worried about this because like those hunger pains that we get, I think are a lot more mental than we all think they are. And
Yeah.
I'm an eater. Like I need to eat like every 2 hours. I can just pound some food down by all means. And it just went away. I didn't have that. And I say a lot of that was that stress them first days. And then even after that, the hunger pains weren't the same for some reason as my hunger pains now. Like if I don't eat from now and I skip lunch, by dinner, I'm like, oh, am I going to die? I don't know if I'm going to make it till like 6 o'clock. And it just wasn't like that there. Like you just like, I think you just accepted the fact that when you get food, you get food,
Yeah.
and you just felt slower. And I never had those like really hard grumbling kind of pains that we get. It was like flu-like symptoms continuously. And they just continuously got worse throughout the time there.
Yeah, for 51 days. That's a long flu.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
lost what, 50 pounds? Is that what you lost?
54 pounds.
So about a pound a day. Yeah. So
Yeah.
about 3,500 calories of a deficit you were in per day, because 3,500 pounds or calories is 1 pound.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, you were literally starving. So a few more questions with this. Like, when you decided to drop out, like, did is there any regrets? Did you know like this is it? I put 100% effort in. This is the maximum effort that I could have done. Like you were totally at peace with that.
So that's a tough question to answer. What I could tell you is that from going through that starvation period,
Yeah.
that your mindset changes so dramatically
Yeah.
that compared to like if you say Dan right now sitting here and you brought 51-day Dan in next to me,
Yeah.
two different mind. I mean, it literally starts to warp your mind. It is
Yeah.
bizarre. But then when you think about it, you're like, well, you're so deprived and you're literally in starvation mode. Something's going to happen in that brain. Like something's going to change. You're not going to be, hoorah with everything because you're starving to death. So at the time, I was comfortable with the decision and I was like, I'm going to be done. Because what started to really creep in, not only was the hunger thing like an issue, right? I don't have food and I'm starving and I was feeling terrible, but I started to get real, like almost paranoid about
Mhm.
like, I would think about stuff like, it was supposed to, we were there during the wintertime. So there was a little bit of snow, but there wasn't a lot. And they said, like it was going to, as we were there longer and longer, more and more snow was coming. So I started to like panic about the snow that, well, what if the snow comes and they can't get me out of here and I want to get out of here? Like, so I'm panicking about that. Then I would panic. And this is the weirdest one is I would panic that people, because you have no contact with people at home. Like you can't talk to anybody and they don't tell you. It's not like they come and say, hey, your family's okay. So I started to panic in my own head that like people are dead at home. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, what if I get home and everybody's dead? Well, it's illogical, but this is where my mind started to go. So at that time, it was like that was the right decision to make. And I was starting to get content with myself. On day 30, I was like, I'm done. I'm like, I went 30 days.
Oh,
I've had
really?
enough of this.
Wow.
It's like a threshold. Like I feel like I hit this threshold and it was like a number, like boom, 30. I got it. And then I was like, I got to stay. I'm like, I know this is a long journey. So I stayed. Day 40 came and went. It was nothing. Day 50 is when it hit the worst. I was
Mhm.
like, 50 days, I'm done. I don't have any more in me. And, Then I went to bed. I'm like, I'll sleep it off. I got up, and on day 51, when I got up to leave, I was like, I just knew. I mean, I woke up and I was like, I'm leaving today. There was no, it was just there. I knew it was time to go. I was I was done with everything. I was done being hungry. I was done missing my family. I was done worrying about if snow's coming. Like, I'm done with everything. And then
Yeah.
that was it. I was out of there.
Would you do anything different if you went back on the show, say 2 weeks from now? Would anything change?
Yes, because when I went on, I had a very serious attitude towards survival, in the sense that, like, my whole goal there was to which I did. Everything I taught people is what I did when I went there. Like, I put everything into play to see if it worked, and I could legitimately say, like, yeah, that worked. I mean, most of the time, most people aren't going to be lost for 50 days out in the woods.
Yeah.
And everything I taught them and everything I teach is like practical, useful. That's going to work. So that I did. And that was my goal then. If I had to go back now, I'd be a character. Like, not that
Mhm.
I would fake who I am, but they want people who are like wild and crazy and like doing like just off the wall stuff to build up that persona, that character. And, because that leads in a lot of other things, because I didn't get a lot of airtime, in a sense, because I was so like mundane with like just the basics of survival,
Mhm.
which that's what I was into then. But now I'm like, well, if you're a character and you're doing all this craziness, you're going to be on the air a lot more, and they're going to, like, people are going to get to know you a lot more. And like, so that never really came out too much. Plus, I don't feel like now, especially with my business and stuff, I feel like I'm like more established. So I'm like, well, if I don't win, I don't care. I'm like, this is just going to be a fun trip at this point. Then it was
Sure.
a lot more serious for me, because it was like, all right, we're doing this new adventure, and I'm dialed in, and this is what we're going to do. So
That
yeah,
makes
I
a
would
lot. That
definitely have a
makes
little bit different
yeah,
approach.
that makes so much sense, Dan. Like, yeah, personalities. Like, I would have a hard time doing going above and beyond, like just wanting to focus on eating and staying warm. Like, you're putting on a show essentially, in an act at some level for the camera. Like, I'm talking into the camera now to you, but in here, like, there's no response out there. You're talking into a camera and you have to act happy or mad, or like, be sort of funny maybe here and there. That would be hard. Like, when you're losing a pound a day and you're starving and you're cold, I would have a hard time setting up the cameras, moving the cameras, having batteries die, like all of that stuff, because I'm focused on surviving. So I can
Yeah,
see where that would be a challenge for sure.
yeah. Yep. And so that would be my biggest change. I would definitely shift that if I had to go back, just for the fun of it now, because I feel like I did it once for serious. Now I'm going to go back and like be a little bit more of a wild man. So,
Sure,
but I don't
sure.
think I would ever, I don't want to say I don't think. I know I would not go back and do that again. I don't have that in me to go and try to do that.
Sure.
Part of it is just the whole production part of it, which I'm saying you got to go be a character. I don't have, that's not what I want to do. And, I went the whole starvation thing. It still affects me till today, and being away from people. Like, I'm
Yeah.
real weird when I have to go do something like by myself. Like, I'll go
Mm,
do it, but if I have to travel, like I was supposed to go on an elk hunt with some guys, and which is going to be cool, right? Going to go on this elk hunt like an hour. We're going to New Mexico. It's going to be awesome to get the bows out and shoot an elk. Well, I bail at the last minute because I'm like, I get this
yep.
like anxiety, and like, I'm like, I don't know why I don't want to go places. And it's because of that. Same, like I was supposed to go to Aspen on this snowboarding trip. I buy plane tickets, I get hotel rooms. I'm like, it's the day to go. I bail. And it's because of that. So like, I'm like, there's parts of that like have affected me. And I'm not saying it in a bad way. I mean, I chose to do that. Right.
Sure.
So, but it has affected. So I'm like, I don't want to ever go back through that. The starvation, looking back at it, was horrible. And
Mhm.
just the whole scenario and dealing with production, like, I don't want to deal with that. So
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's like a
next stage of life.
PTS, it's like a PTSD. Like, if you look at, solitary confinement, right, in prisons and different kinds of like torture methods, it's really what you signed up for and you
Yeah.
experienced
Yeah.
that,
Yeah. I
you
mean, it
know.
is. I mean, you're like, yeah, drop me off here. I'm not going to eat for 51 days. Yeah. Good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll film it too. Yeah.
When we were at your camp down there, you were telling everyone there, it took you about a year to recover physically. Can you, because this goes into sort of the health aspect that we're going to bridge into now, but like, I'm assuming like your hormones were messed up. Like, you know, there had to be maybe digestion issues, cortisol, sleep issues. Like, what did you experience over, let's say, that year after the show?
Yeah. So when I first got back, like when I first got back to civilization, should we say, um, I didn't, now, of course, I didn't eat for days. So when I would eat, nothing sat well. You think you're going to go pig out. That just doesn't happen because you don't have an appetite. Even though you're starving to death, you just can't eat a lot. And when you do eat, you can't eat volume because it's like, it doesn't sit right. So I never in my life except then had heartburn. I was like, a couple times I'm like, am I dying? What is happening? Because it would just be hard. Anything I'd eat, I'd get like that. And that went on for probably like about a week to 2 weeks. But the sleep thing, you talked about sleep a little bit. Sleep was absolutely horrendous. I could not sleep. I would just be up for hours, even in my own bed. I'm like, my wife's like, what are you doing all night? Like it would be like 3 a.m. and I'm like downstairs, like rooting, like just doing random stuff. I just couldn't sleep. And that went on for literally 2 weeks. I think I slept in a 2-week period, like a couple hours. I was like, I'm going to have to go to a doctor or do something because I can't keep going like this. And then one night I lay down. I was like, all right, I'm just going to lay. And then I was like, I fell right asleep and I slept for like 12 hours and I got up and then my whole system was back on track. Every night I'd go to bed, I'd fall asleep and I was fine. So whatever that was, it had something, but the sleep was a big one. So that took about a 2-week period. The eating, like I said, 1 to 2 weeks, that was another, I just had to take my time and it finally came back. I had my appetite back and ate. But as far as like my body, I wish I would have got blood work after that, just to see where I was at. Because now 2 years ago, I started working with different doctors. I love to get all my levels tested. That's my new I love to get like blood work and see where I'm at. And then I change my diet and see where it's at. I love that now. But then I didn't even know about that. So when I started to put weight back on, it came on pretty quick, but it was like sloppy weight. Like I came back and I was like, just like soft, and I didn't like my muscle ended up coming back over time, but it was just, I looked a mess. I was like really chubby in my belly. My arms never like filled back out. And I was just like blubbery, almost like somebody who like never worked out a day in their life, didn't have a good diet. That's how I was. And that took a good 6, 7, 8 months. Like I look back at pictures and I was like, I went from real skinny to like soft, blubbery, and like, just like weird looking. And then everything just started to bounce back. And that's at that year point. I was like, back at the gym, that I felt good, able to lift strong. Like that chub came back off me. All my muscles seemed like it came back, which it was weird because, and I don't know this answer, maybe you know this, which I would love for somebody to be able to tell me. So like, when you lose all that weight, they always say you burn muscle. You really like, I'm assuming you don't actually burn muscle. It's just depleted of all the nutrients and then it fills back up. It's weird because I was like bone. There was nothing on me. And then it just comes back. And you know how long it takes to like build nice thick muscle on your body, and it just came back. So it's always like, is it just that much glycogen in your muscles that takes that long to fill back up or whatever it is? That actually came back. I mean, tremendous.
Yeah. I think that, you definitely burn muscle. The body will want carbohydrates and like glucose first, and then you start to become catabolic where you burn muscle. So you are muscle wasting for a large majority of that time period. And so like, the whole soft, like you said, like blubbery or whatever, like afterwards, I'm assuming your cortisol levels were in such a fight or flight mode for so long that when cortisol is elevated, building muscle, sleeping correctly, digesting food properly, all of that is affected. Like all of it. And so cortisol is sort of like that main driving force. And it probably took you months to normalize that again. And your body was like confused as far as like, why would I build muscle when I can put easy fat on because Dan just starved me and I want fat for fuel? You know, there's this whole training process over 2 months where your body's like, I need to recruit everything I can to survive. So the last thing it's worried about is building, you know, big arms and shoulders immediately when you start, you know, giving it food. It's like, no, I just need to store this for immediate energy in the near future. And the sleep thing makes complete sense, because if cortisol is elevated, which in your case it was when you're starving, cortisol's not low. It's like, I'm stressed out, I'm going to die. You don't sleep well when cortisol is elevated. It's a fight or flight mechanism. And so you get that wired feeling, even though you're exhausted, you're wired. And you got to go. And that's the body. It doesn't want to die, you know? And so as soon as your parasympathetic system kicked over, sleep would normalize, cortisol drops, muscle would increase, testosterone would increase. And so having labs before, during, and after would have been fascinating to see that.
I know. I know. That would have been so cool to look at that stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Native Path has been a podcast sponsor of ours since day one. And it's because our clients feel amazing using their supplements. While a lot of products on the market today contain useless fillers and incorrect dosages, Native Path holds to a higher standard. Native Path's ingredients are sourced from only the highest quality, properly combined nutrients, all while being offered at competitive prices. Use code COMO15, that's COMO15 at checkout, and receive 15% off each order. Lombardi Chiropractic has been Co-Movement's trusted chiropractor for the last 14 years. They have worked with hundreds of our clients, and I can confidently say they have the most knowledgeable and holistic approach to care that I have ever seen. Whether you suffer from migraines, low energy, nagging pain, or just simply want to improve your overall health, I highly recommend contacting the team at Lombardi Chiropractic. Mention the Co-Movement Gym podcast and receive 50% off your initial consultation and x-rays. Here at Co-Movement, we put a lot of energy into helping you become happy, healthy, and strong. But you know, we're not the only ones needing a good workout. That's why a dog's day out is the best place in Central New York for your pet to spend their day. Your dog will be as happy and healthy as you when you let them run, play, and socialize instead of just sitting on the couch waiting for you to come home. Give your dog the active day out that they deserve. Mention this podcast and get a free day of doggy daycare at a dog's day out. Cool. So let's talk about fitness, nutrition, all this. What is it right now? Like, you know, life is back to normal. This is like 2017, I think you're on the show. So what's an average week of training look like for you? I'm really interested to know what you're doing.
So I'm like a mix between like a CrossFitter, a caveman, and like a construction worker when it comes to like my fitness. And as I've been doing it, I was thinking today, because I knew I was going to be on here, I was like, I've been in the fitness world and really after it for like 25 years this year. Like this is my 25th year doing this, because I graduated high school in 2000. And I started my senior year, like the end of my senior year working out. And, so I've done a lot of different stuff. Currently, right now, as far as fitness goes, I love CrossFit. Like that's one of my favorite things. I love it. Yeah. I love to lift heavy though. So, because when I first started lifting, I was a skinny string bean, and the guy that got me really like programming and like doing stuff, I'd say the right way, was into powerlifting. So the beginning stages of my lifting career were all powerlifting based. So there's something about, I love just moving heavy weights. So I have a mixture right now. I do about 3 days CrossFit WOD type movements. And then I'll do like 2 days that are more just heavy compound movements. So deadlifts or heavy cleans or overhead presses or squats. And I really have, I would say over the last 2 years, limited my volume with that stuff. And I just try to maintain my strength as I'm 42 now. I have to watch with some of the movements. I came to the realization I'm not young anymore. So I can't squat every day of the week or my knees start hurting. And I can't just bench press on a normal bench all week because my shoulders start to hurt. So I'm starting to really learn how to like tailor that training a little bit more. That works better for me. Even with my CrossFit WODs, if there's stuff in there now, like last year, I was like competitive in everything CrossFit. I was going competitions and I
Yep.
was doing
Wow.
everything. I was at the gym all the time, and
Mhm.
I was happy with all my performances. Like I was doing good. And now I cut back on that a little bit. And just because other stuff in life that came up, I still keep doing it. But like
Mhm.
if a WOD has, let's say, like lunges in it, well, that they
Mhm.
kill my knees. So I'll
Yep.
substitute that out for something else that is going to be a little less impactful on me. So I change it up a little bit like that. But that's
Mhm.
currently what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I like CrossFit for certain clients, right? Yeah, I did CrossFit competitively for years. I went to the CrossFit Games in 2008, and then I did the regionals and the opens for 7 years. But
Wow. So
then
you're a
it,
games athlete.
yeah, 2008, you didn't have to qualify in 2008, but I was there with like Jason Khalipa, James Fitzgerald, Chris Spieler,
That
all
is,
those
I
guys were
love
there.
that you come to my school and don't bring this up. And meanwhile, I'm like, this is like I like living for outside of bushcraft. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Well,
that's so awesome.
yeah. It was a really cool journey, but exactly what you described, sort of how like the body changes, is what I experienced at age 32, 33. I'd been doing CrossFit competitively since 24. My body started to take a toll. I had, coaches, I had double training sessions, travel, a lot of volume. And I just started to accumulate injuries, and that's when I focused more on like, a longevity type training practice. I still do all the stuff I was doing before. It's just more focused on when I'm 80 years old, I want to be able to do this versus I'm going to sacrifice myself now for this competition in 6 weeks. It's just sort of a different mindset with that. What kind of goals do you have with your training? Like, do you have anything you're looking to do, or is it just more just to feel good?
Yeah, right now it's just to feel good. And I
Mhm.
cycle through, I stopped fighting the urge to always have this like real specific goal,
Yeah.
because then I found that I sort of get, I hate using the word burned out, but I just get
Yep.
like unmotivated and I don't enjoy doing it. And at the end of the day, I like doing it. So
Yeah.
when I set these things like that, I'm forcing myself, like I can sign up now for a CrossFit competition I know coming up in a couple months, but I
Mhm.
don't, that is not in me right at the moment. So I'm like, I don't need to do that, right? I have all this other stuff in my life. I love to work out. I'm enjoying going to the gym again. So that's what I do. But it'll come back. Like I know in the next year or so, I'll get, fire my pants again. I'll think, all right, it's time to fire this stuff back up. I'm ready to go. Other stuff in my life is more settled down and I'm going to go with it. But that's a hard transition to do from like being a young, like stud. And
Yes.
then all of a sudden you
Yeah.
like, I'm going to taper this down, or maybe I shouldn't go as heavy, or maybe I should take a day off. Like that, and I still struggle with that transition. So
Yeah.
right now, to answer your question, as far as goals go, it's really just to feel good and look good. The most difficult thing for me when it comes to fitness, the whole fitness realm, is really having my nutrition dialed in. I
Yeah.
mean, there's times I'm good with it, and there's other times I just like to eat. I like to drink some beers.
Mhm.
So I'm like, to find that balance, it goes back to a balance thing, because I can go full tilt. I'm like full tilt is the problem with me. I'll go full tilt to an end. I'm like, I'm going to track every macro and I'm cleaning everything up. And then in like 4 days, I'm like super miserable and I'm mean to everybody because I just don't, I'm like,
Sure.
why am I doing this? Right. I know
Yeah.
there's a good outcome to it. And it's not like I shouldn't, but I'm like, like if I'm happy with how I am right now, and I know, hey, I got to, like, I want to trim down right now a little bit,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
I'm a little bit thicker than I normally am. So then I'll just like, I cut back on my foods. I'll eat healthier. I eat a lot more like meats and fats, and I cut my carbs back a little bit, and I feel better. I'll lose a little bit of weight. I look good with my shirt off. I'm like, I'm good. I'm still strong, and I just keep it there. So I go through these little cycles right now where I'm at with my age. And I think that that's probably going to be the key. I love that you just said, like, you want to be able to do this when you're 80.
Yeah.
So I can kill myself now and have injuries and then not want to do it at all, or I can learn to monitor this. But it's a hard thing to just learn that and accept the fact you have to learn to dial that down.
Yeah, that word that you're using, accepting, is something I struggled with. I'm well past it now, but that transition at 32, 33 from hyper competitive and obsessed to average Joe, right? I guess you could say, like weekend warrior type thing. That
Yeah.
was an identity, right? Like I identified with being an athlete, and when you realize like that time is, at some point it's a futile ending, right? You're going to end up really hurting yourself. There's going to be long-term damage. Like you have to rechange that identity. And so for me, I was really, really at peace with feeling really good physically, being happy in my life, good relationships, booming business, right? Like all of that is what I reoriented my identity with. Being a good parent, a good husband. And then fitness, I still train. I train 6 to 7 days a week. It varies with what I do and the volume and the scope of what I'm going after. But it's more centered on the new identity of, like, with your camp. Like, I didn't want to go down to your camp for 2 days with my legs blown out. I have to do a 4 hour drive. I have to camp in the woods, right? Like, so I
Yeah.
just, I think I did like a 4 mile easy jog before I came down. And, it was like I'm setting myself up for what's truly important with being with my kid and at your camp. But yeah, that identity is hard. And as far as the food goes, and just the cycles, I've noticed in my own life, everything is in cycles. Everything from training to nutrition to certain relationships to business cycles. You have the summer, fall, winter and spring. And when I can identify those cycles in my own life, I'm more at peace, like with where I am. So, like an injury, right, might be winter. My training just sort of takes that back seat. But in business, maybe business is booming and I'm in spring and summer, and I reallocate energy towards that. So yeah, so much of what you said there, Dan, like I'm nodding, it really resonates. I'm curious to get your opinion on this. I don't ask a lot of our guests this, but with you, you and I have a lot in common with a lot of this. So like when you look at our nation's health, okay, from like a 50,000 foot perspective, what do you think that the average person can do to improve their health?
Um, Okay, so generally, I think we can all agree that our nation is unhealthy. Like
Yeah.
people are unhealthy. Just go sit somewhere, look around. People are unhealthy. The biggest thing is people need. I think there's two things, and I tell my kid this. My kid's all into fitness, but I tell him this over and over all the time. I'm like, you got to move your body, and that doesn't mean you have to do what me or Josh like what we do doesn't have to be what everybody does. You don't have to go do CrossFit. You don't have to join a gym. Like get up and walk. Just don't sit all day, walk, move your body, do something that's
Mm-hmm.
physical. If you do that 20 minutes a day, you're already ahead of the curve. And then the second thing, you got to get rid of the processed foods. You
Yeah.
got to eat good whole foods. If you eat good whole foods and you got to take away, I think the problem there is I've been on this kick like hard the last like 3 months is the information that's out there. I don't think a lot of it is trustworthy information. It's told
Yeah.
to us. So when people say don't eat eggs and don't eat a steak
Yeah.
because your cholesterol is going to be high and you're going to die, well, that's way better than opening a package of something that's been processed full of chemicals and eating that. So just changing your diet to whole foods and moving a little bit, your life will dramatically change, like dramatically change.
That's great advice, and it's simple, but if people actually implemented it, I think as a nation we would see a huge difference. Why
Yeah,
do you think that people
huge.
struggle with accomplishing goals or staying on task when it comes to health? Like I think I read 92% of people don't hit their New Year's goal. What, and it's something as a coach, like my business has been open 14 years. We've worked with hundreds, maybe 1,000 people at this point as far as private customized training. And I will say it is really hard for people to set a health goal and stick to it long term. It's just tough. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's number one. I think sometimes the goals are unrealistic that people set
Yeah.
for themselves because they might look again. What Josh's goal is they're not anywhere near that. Like you're looking at somebody who's a competitive CrossFit athlete, owns a gym,
Yeah.
and his goal is going to be way different. So they're unrealistic because they go on the phone, they get this thing out, and they look at Instagram and they're like, well, I want to look like this person or that girl or this guy. Well, they don't realize the work and the years some of them people put in for that. So I think the unrealistic expectation where they want to get to instead of small little goals is one thing. And I think the other thing is especially with fitness and diet, you need to, which we talked about a little bit, it needs to fit your lifestyle. Like you can't take this cookie cutter program that you read that Matt Fraser did
Yep.
and implement it in your life. You're two different people. So what's going to work best for you? Diets are a great example of that. Like if you don't like eating fish and chicken, okay, well, how can we adjust that so you enjoy what you're eating every day? Because if you give me a diet and I don't like the foods I'm eating, it's not going to last. So what can we eat? How can we do that? How can we adjust that to fit you as a person compared to these cookie cutter, everybody's going to get the same thing. Join my program, I'll tell you how to get fit. Well, that usually doesn't work too well for people because you got to enjoy the process at the end of the day. So when I talk about whole foods, like I enjoy eating eggs with some butter on them in the morning. I enjoy a steak. I enjoy, like my son doesn't like eggs though in the morning. So he'll eat, those protein pancakes. Mm-hmm. So I know they're not the best option, but for him, that's better than a bowl of Cheerios. Yes. So I'm like, okay, we're going to make you that. You're going to eat that. I'm going to eat so it's that thing. You got to find that happy medium that fits the person themselves and what they like. I think if they would do that, they would realize it's more obtainable than anything else.
Yeah. Yep. I'm with you on that. I think aligning your goals with what's sustainable, while also helping you. We work a lot as a culture. We're go, 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 no time, quick food, easy processed food. But at the end of the day, we need to, whether it's just a walking or rucking program with 4 basic staple healthy foods that you do enjoy, you need to pick something that you can stick with. It's funny, you mentioned the setting goals that aren't attainable. We have quite a few people that come in initially and we help reframe this for them, but they have goals that are too lofty, too fast, right? Not too long ago, we had someone come in and they said, oh, I watched one of your YouTube videos and I want to do a freestanding handstand push-up. And I very politely was like, well, tell me about, your regular floor push-ups and ring dips. Can you do muscle up? And we actually really quickly realized that 10 strict floor push-ups were not possible for this individual. And so, we just have to reframe that. Like, so you're saying that you want to work on a bent arm push movement, which is what a freestanding handstand push-up is. Let's start at the bottom level and then we can work our way up to what took me like 6 years to accomplish. And I already had a good background before the 6 years. So reframing that, it saves coaches and people a lot of time and respect when you can reframe it into something that they can achieve. So if they want to lose 60 pounds, let's lose 5. And then we will reassess where we are. How are you feeling? Are you happy? Is this like motivational for you? And then maybe we go to 10 pounds. But yeah, that whole goal setting piece, you and I'm sure we could do a separate podcast on that, but like, it's a big, big topic I think people need to relook at.
Yeah. And I think too, like that client, what would be like, they want to do that. Why? It's almost like the why question too, because you saw it on Instagram and it was cool. Like, because that's not going to, again, that's that sustainability. Like you're going to lose interest in that over time. So the same as somebody, I want to deadlift 500. Well, why? If they are truly passionate about being a strong person is a different story than they're like, well, it's going to be cool to do that. Well, you're not sticking with it because it's cool, because you're going to be done and over with it when you realize how much work it takes. So yeah, I think that too is like, the why at the end of the day.
A lot of it is attention. Like we live in this, social media age where if you can get that perfect, picture or the video, but the true, like you had said, like when it comes down to the true work long term, if you're not really interested and passionate, you're not going to put the work in to do it.
Yes.
But I think it's, I want to look really good with those abs on Instagram. But then when you ask yourself, like, do your abs actually make your life any better? I don't know. Like maybe not, I don't know. Does
Yeah, well,
doing
I
a
think
hand,
this. Listen, I'm like that is me all the time because I'm like, okay, I'm going to diet down, I'm going to get shredded for summer, and I'm like, for what? I'm like,
yeah,
I know it's not sustainable year round. That's not me. I'm not going to sustain that year round. So
yep,
then I'm like, okay, if I do that, it's because I'm going to the beach. I mean, it'll be great for the week at the beach, but
sure.
then outside of that, I'm like, well, what if my buddies want to go have a beer? Well, what if I want like so I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I like to have a burger once in a while. I like to get a pizza with my kid once in a while. So
Yes.
I'm like, okay, like is exactly what you said. Is it worth that? Yeah, it's great to have that. That's not taking it away from anybody who wants to put that work in to do that.
Yep.
But again, everybody's a little bit different. So where are you at? So is that ultimately just for Instagram? Because if it is, you're gonna lose sight of that. You're gonna get frustrated with it. You're not gonna do it.
Yeah.
Versus you're doing it, another
Yeah.
reason.
And
Yeah.
I think like frequent check-ins as far as happiness and quality of life come into play too, right? Like you have the one spectrum where like the person's just lazy, like they need
Yeah.
discipline, they need, you and I fall on the other side where like maybe relaxing a little more and being more lenient on ourselves, it could be beneficial, right? And then you have everyone that falls in between. But I think that check-in of like happiness and fulfillment and contentment in your life, like at a deep level, is important. So like for you, let's say 8% body fat gets you the abs and whatever you're looking for social status short term with that. Or you could be 12% and, have a pizza with your family or beers with your friend or not stress out when you're traveling on the road because, I would wager that your happiness and fulfillment and stress levels are just better at 12% versus being this rigid 8%, right? I need that. And, I think, again, when we talk about the seasons, if you're in competition mode or say you're prepping for like, the show alone or something, right? You're making this big push. Yes, there's sacrifices, there's disciplines, there's hardship, there's pain because you're getting there. But that's not sustainable. So I think the goal, right, for all of us, and this is something you and I, it sounds like we're always searching for, and everyone is, but what is sustainable? I think that's,
No, I
that's
totally.
the
That is,
goal.
yeah. You put that perfectly. Yeah, and the
Yeah.
seasons thing is a great way to put that because there is like when I was training last year, I was so dialed in with everything, and I wanted to be dialed in. I knew I had competitions, so
Yep.
you give up that. I'm like, all right, I can't eat pizza this week because I know I have all this stuff coming up. I got to have my diet better. I have to just be more dialed in. I got to be a little bit leaner for this, everything. And then
Yeah.
when nothing's going on, I'm just doing a business. Especially me, I think too. Another thing you look at when you think about we were talking about goal setting, I always got in this routine of the training, and then I was like, what am I training for? Because part of me training is to be out in the woods to
Yes.
really be optimal. So like in the middle of the winter when we have like our Bushman course, which is in December and we're trapping and it's freezing cold, me being super lean does not help that scenario. I am shivering all day. I'm cold. I'm hungry. I'm like, so me putting an extra 10 pounds on does way better. I'm warmer. I have more weight on me, even though I'm not as fit. I'm way better in the woods. So I'm like, if that's should be again, that's a good goal, but it seems like backwards because most people would be like, well, you should have abs year round.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe not because I'm out in the woods freezing to death. So that's not like, what are you training for? So if you start, I think that a lot with myself too. And you can't use that as an excuse to be like, oh, well, I'm training to be able to, eat more.
Sure.
So I'm going to just be fat or whatever. But in my
Sure.
case, you look at something like that and it's like, well, that's reasonable, right? I shouldn't be super lean going in there and struggle there because all this training should aid in all the other aspects of my life.
100% put down. Yeah, I can word that any better. And your business is growing. You've got so many, which we're going to talk about that next. But like, if you were to be training in say training and prepping food 2-3 hours a day, say 6-7, well, let's say 7 days a week, if you're really going after something, like that's so much time away from your business, right, and your family, two very important values. And so there's a, I did about 5 years of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and I loved it. I was training 3-4 days a week, but what happened, there's a critical tipping point for me, and this was very hard, right? Because the identity shift again, right?
Mm-hmm.
25-minute commute there, change, warm up, 75-minute class, wipe down so you don't get staph infections, change, drive home, shower at home, get your clothes in the laundry, right? You're talking like 2.5, 3 hours, 3-4 days a week. And for me, I had got injured. I had time off. I had all this time. And I was like, wow, I can be training more, doing more sales, more content, more. My business, Dan, I'm not joking. My business jumped 25% quickly because I was just engaged more. I wasn't working out. I was still at my gym. I have a gym in my front yard. Like I bike, I run, I rock, I lift, but it's more convenient, right? It's better on time. I can get right back to work. Like I could be on this podcast with you, go right out to my gym, get a good 45-minute session in and go on with my day. So yeah, I just think like it's whatever works for people at the time in their life, but you have to have the values in order. The 3 hours a day for me, that ship had sailed, and I had to be okay with that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Totally agree with all that.
Let's talk about your business. I follow your YouTube channel. YouTube channel is awesome. I take notes on that actually ever since the course with my kid. We got to spend 2 days with you at your headquarters there. That was awesome. I think it was not only awesome for the kids there. I think every adult, including myself, thought that was awesome. So many great concepts. We were outside. We made shelters. We learned many ways to start a fire. We made new friends. So can you talk about what services and products you offer? Because people listening to this may be interested in looking that up.
Yeah. So again, Coalcracker Bushcraft, the first thing it throws people off is bushcraft. They're like, what is bushcraft? Which sometimes I'm like, it should be, maybe we should adjust that name a little bit. But at the end of the day, so bushcraft is just a very, in layman's terms, it's traditional camp skills and outdoor skills is what we classify as bushcraft overall. So we teach survival and outdoor skills at our school. That's one component of the business. So the majority of those classes, they are around either being more comfortable in the outdoors when you're recreating. So if you're going out on a camping trip or a hunting trip that you're going to be camping out, how do you just make that life more comfortable? Because a lot of people relate camping to uncomfortableness. So if we can fix that, we do. And that's what our goal there is. And then we also teach survival skills that specifically focus on people that spend a lot of time outside, be it hunting or fishing or backpacking or hiking, that if something bad happens, how do you maintain yourself and keep yourself safe until somebody can rescue you or you can get out of that situation? And a lot of times, because of shows like Alone and Dual Survival, people think of the word survival and they think, I'll never be in that because I'm not going to be in a plane crash in the Andes Mountains. But that's really not it. You can get lost at a state park and be stranded for a day and a bad storm comes in and you have yourself in a bad situation. So that's what we teach very realistically that at the school with the classes. And then we have all kind of specialty classes around plants and wild edibles and outdoor cooking. And we have the kids course and we have a woman's only course. And next year we're doing a more preparedness course because we get a lot of people that come from the city out. So what should they have in a bag and have prepared in case something bad would happen for them to keep themselves safe. So we're in that realm a lot with our education. And then the YouTube falls into that too. I do most of my videos are all around just short tips for the outdoors. They're not real long videos. I want them digestible, that it's not like, oh, this guy's doing, I just want to, hey, here's a quick tip. stick it in I always say more tools for the toolbox. When you're out, if you're tying a Christmas tree to a car, you're like, hey, Dan at Coalcracker said, use this knot. And, it helps that kind of situation. So that's like our education component of what we do here. And then we have a full manufacturing place here that we make camp goods. So we make all kinds of stuff from backpacks to small pouches and bags to emergency shelters to traditional tents and shelter systems. We make knives, we make axes, we make all that stuff, and it's all in house. And that's like one of my favorite things to do. I'm like a jack of all trades, master at none kind of thing. So we make a ton of stuff here in house, and it's all I self-taught myself, and that's what we do.
So I'm curious, just from a business perspective, what percent of, let's say, overall revenue is product sales versus camps and seminars?
Probably 75% is product sales. Yeah. About 25% is the training. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
and
what
that varies sometimes. Yeah, that varies sometimes too. It depends. There's been years that we did a lot with schools. And like after school programs that we would have kids come in, and summer camps would come in to do different stuff. So sometimes that'll adjust a little bit. Like last year we had a local college, a whole fraternity came. So like 100 frat guys came to the school property, and we had a weekend of training and stuff like that. So, but on average, it's about, 3/4 is mostly all the product sales.
Do you make your products at the barn we were at there, or do you have another?
No, we're it's in Frackville, Pennsylvania, so we're about 15 minutes away from where we were at there. We produce everything at our shop.
Okay, wow. So you make all this stuff on your website, which I highly recommend people visit. We're going to put your website in the show description. You make all of that, all the stuff you sell, or most of it?
Yeah, well, most of it. Probably about 85% of it. Any of the sewn goods we make here, all the knives, the axes, all that stuff's made all in-house. It's some of the stuff like, matches and stuff like that. Of course, we don't make, but that's a small percentage. But everything that's sewn and stuff we make all here. Wow.
So what is, this is something I wrestle with all the time, and I actually have a meeting this afternoon on this topic, but like 10-year vision with your company. You're 42 years old. Like what do you want things to look like in 10 years with your business?
Yeah. So, my ultimate goal is I want to grow the manufacturing part of the business. That's my ultimate goal. I want to grow that out more. I really, really like that portion of it. So I want to be able to expand that product line out and get more, not only that we're selling it, but also you're looking at Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's, REI. We want to expand into those realms for sales. And then as far as the school and the education component of it, the ultimate goal there is to spread that out, that we have different training sites throughout the country. The biggest obstacle I have right now with that isn't spreading it out, is that there's people know me as Coalcracker, and we're slowly getting away from that. We're getting it. People who know Coalcracker is Coalcracker, because it would be tough right now if you said, hey, we're running a class in Arizona and I send just one of my instructors. Where's Dan? kind of thing. So that's what we're working on. And that's just time it takes to get to that point. So, but they're the big things, to expand that out and really move the manufacturing stuff, because, as far as like YouTube and stuff go, I like doing YouTube, but I realize, as I get older, young people are going to come up in the world, and they're going to have young ideas in that realm. And, I can't see myself being 60 or 70 and still trying to film YouTube. I want to slowly move out. I have over 500,000 subscribers on there. I'd like to get to 1 million, and then be able to dial that back more and really just hit all the other stuff a lot harder.
Yeah, well, your YouTube channel, you could shift that slowly to more product type conversations and sales and dialogue, right? You could do that at any age for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I wonder how hard, I know nothing about, getting into REI or anything. I wonder how hard it is. I bet you it it's challenging, but man, you've got a brand and I can see you doing it for sure.
Yeah. I actually have my first part. Well, we have two. I don't want to say two issues. We have a good amount of product that we'd be able to put in there. Part of it is just the volume, the
Yeah.
manufacturing volume right now, because we do small batches, and small batches for us, we might do 50 to 100 pieces at a shot at the shop here, compared to if we had to do 1,000
Yeah.
pieces. So that would be one hurdle that I'd have to figure out here, how to do that for that more wholesale sales type thing, because I would like to do that all in house, because again, that's something I really enjoy to do overall.
Yeah, and you could employ more people in your area. Like, what a good feeling that is, making jobs for
Yeah.
people, you know?
Yep.
So if you were to start your business over today, what would be one thing that you would change right from the beginning? Is there anything that you would be like, oh man, I definitely wouldn't do that again?
No, I mean, I think overall the flow of how I started the business, the decisions I made with the business, all have went very well overall. Um, I don't think there's really not too much stuff that I mean, it's been a good progression. I'm very happy with how we grew over the years from when we first started till now. There's nothing, I always tell, it's an inside joke here. When I first started, I bought stainless steel water bottles from Clean Canteen, and I got my logo on them. And you had to buy, I think it was like 500. So I'm like, oh yeah, we'll get rid of these in no time. We had those things, I think, until like 2 months ago. I was like, if I have to look at these Clean Canteen water bottles for one more moment, I don't ever want to see a Clean Canteen water bottle ever again in my life in this shop, because I'm like, I can't. So that's a joke here. Like, oh, when Dan first started the business, he had these water bottles. But yeah, I mean, we really never had any hiccups that I would say were like detrimental to the business, or like, oh, that was a huge mistake. I think we had a pretty good flow here, thankfully, from when it started till now.
Yeah, I know, that's cool. Just two last questions with this, and then we'll get into some rapid fire questions to finish up. You've worked with lots of adults at your seminars and camps. What's the number one thing you see people lacking when it comes to either the outdoors or survival?
Having an open mind. A lot of times people will see something either on a show or on YouTube, and when they get there to practically do it, they don't want to shift that. They're like, no, I know. They don't, there's no in between for them. It's like, well, we know, and it doesn't work. And then they'll just keep struggling. Like, just, okay, there's a lot of variables in outdoor activities as far as survival, be it shelter or fire. A lot of variables come into play because you're dealing with nature, and it's not perfect. So that you never have this perfect situation over and over. You have to learn to dissect everything that you're doing. So if you're making a fire, you have, what's the current weather like? What has the weather been like? What's the ground condition like? What kind of fire starter do you have? What condition are you in? Day, night. You got to be able to put all these factors together, rather than these people who have this one set, well, this is how you make a fire. Well, it's more a concept thing. You learn the concepts and do it, rather than this one particular thing.
Yeah, I can completely see that. With kids, what's one thing that has surprised you in working with kids at your seminars? What stands out?
The kids, now this carries on what we just said. They are so open to anything that you tell them. So when I work with kids, I'm like, oh, this is going to be so hard to teach them, and they get it so quick. And even my instructors are like, those kids are better than the adults. And I'm like, well, they listen. And then they just like, they don't have these constrictions. Like they don't like, the kids aren't confined to a box. They're just like, I got to start a fire. And they think of all these little things we just told them, and they do it like with no rules, where adults put these rules and constrictions around them. So that's the coolest thing with the kids, because stuff, especially like navigation, adults struggle tremendous because they get so just focused on, well, it has to be this. And the kids are like, well, okay, like they'll turn a compass and they don't think anything of it. They're just like, we'll go this way. And they do so much better with stuff. It's wild.
Yeah. It's not too different really in the fitness industry too. You know, when you have this super clean slate versus years of like doing things wrong. Yeah, the challenges are definitely different. I know that you definitely taught my son how to make a fire. We just went on another hike, and we knew there was a lean-to with a fire pit, and there was a nice lake. We were going to fish for brook trout and all that. So he makes his kit, and he gets it out. I didn't know what he packed. He brought his ferrocerium rod. He brought cotton balls with Vaseline. And he said, he goes, and he's 11. He said, I want to do this all on my own. I was like, okay, buddy, like, that's fine, So I just went and I don't know, I think I strung up the fishing pole, and he got his kindling. He elevated it, right? He had a backstop. He did all this stuff.
Wow.
And he put the cotton ball with Vaseline. He did everything. And that second strike on the ferrocerium rod, poof.
I love to hear stories like that. I love it because that probably made that kid's day. Like that was and especially they do it on their own. It's like a new world for them. That's so awesome to hear. Yeah.
It was, and his mom saw, and she was like, "Holy cow, Asher, great job!" And he had a friend there, his buddy Anson, and his friend was like, "How did you do that? I want to try it." And like, it was really, really, really cool. So yeah, Dan, you've had obviously a huge impact on him, and I know many others. So we're at an hour. I want to respect your time. Let's finish up with some rapid fire questions. So let's do 3 things that you would put in your bug out bag. Just only 3 things. You had to put them in your bag and go.
If I had to put 3 things in my bag and go, okay. First, which is probably going to throw you for a loop a little bit because you're not going to imagine I'd say it, but the first thing I'm going to throw in there is some type of firearm. Would be my first thing when we talk bug out bag world. The next thing would be water, and then the thing after that would have to be some type of shelter system.
Yeah. Awesome. Food that you missed the most when you were on the show alone. What food group?
Pizza and donuts.
Okay. How would you improve the show alone? Is there anything that you would improve on if you were to take over the production side?
I think that if I took over production, I think I would be a little bit more I don't want to say personable. What's the word I'm looking for here? I think I would have a little bit more compassion for the participants that are going through that, because part of that, which was a little bit of a struggle, when you're done, you really felt like they're done with you. Like, we got what we needed out of you. See ya. Then you don't hear anything. And like I said, we're going through all these physical and mental things that you're struggling with. Well, nobody's to be found. They loved you before. Now you're gone. So I think because we almost felt like we were friends with all these production people. And then it's just like, all right, peace.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Like, just gone. Yeah.
Yep. If you could only choose one focus and you had to choose between sleep, food, or fitness, where would you focus the most on?
Sleep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Sleep. Because if I get a good night's sleep, I feel better. And then I know we only had to pick one, but those other things you're more willing to do with a good night's sleep. Plus, sleep's like the ultimate recovery tool. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I met your boy at the camp there, when he grows up, what's one characteristic that you want him to embrace?
I would say perseverance, just to know that you're going to get knocked down. You got to keep getting back up, and you got to just keep going after it, because it's just not going to come the first time for anything you want. Fitness, business, life, you got to just keep going after it over and over and over and over.
Awesome. Well, Dan, thank you. I can't recommend Coalcracker Bushcraft enough, whether it's a youth camp, adult seminars, your product line, your YouTube channel. You have an awesome book too you gave to the kids. We've read it a handful of times, Bushcraft Kid. So if you're listening and you have a kid that wants a really good template on basic survival skills, I recommend that book. We will put your website and Instagram, YouTube, all that in the show description. So Dan, as far as the website goes, let's end with that. How can people learn more about your business through your site? What website is it?
Yeah, so it's coalcrackerbushcraft.com. If you type in Coalcracker Bushcraft, our YouTube will come up, our Instagram comes up, anything. We're pretty much number one search on anything Coalcracker. So even if you just type Coalcracker, and it'll all come up, and there we are.
Awesome. Dan, thank you for your time today, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me again, Josh.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting our sponsors, Native Path Supplements, Lombardi Chiropractic, and A Dog's Day Out Doggy Daycare. They help us bring you 2 new episodes each month and have a special discount just for our listeners. See the show notes for more details. Thank you, and see you next time on the Co-Movement Gym podcast.